Being prepared is your best defense. Know your property's risk factors, clear drainage paths, and use sandbags to direct runoff and to protect structures. LA County prepares all its flood control facilities and erects temporary barriers where appropriate in advance of storm events, but residents in areas prone to flooding and mudslides must do their part. Rain, mud, branches, and other debris can roar down hillsides in a storm, endangering lives and property. Don't be caught unprepared. The county's level of awareness and preparation are raised during any storm season, but are heightened where the effects of wildfires border populated areas. Wherever you live, it is important to be aware of impacts from significant storm events, such as flooding, mudslides, and power outages, and plan accordingly.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Nigel.
Hey.
We are live.
Thank you. We're
Thanks,
still.
Katie.
It is almost 5. Let's give it a few more seconds. All right, everybody, I'd like to call this meeting of the Lancaster Social Equity Commission to order. This meeting is being conducted telephonically or virtually pursuant to the governor's executive order N2920. Because this is a telephonic meeting, all votes will be taken by roll call. Assistant City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commission members Cullen, Deloche,
Dr. Deloche? He's on.
okay. I do see him. We have commission members Hone.
Here.
Joseph. Commissioner Joseph. Commissioner Pope.
Here.
Vice Chair Carter. Vice Chair Carter. Chairman Cannon.
I'm here.
Okay, and then I'm going to just start from the top just one more time to make sure I pick up everybody.
Sure.
Commission members Cullen. Hone.
Here.
Joseph. Pope. We do have, and Vice Chair Carter. Okay, we do have a quorum though, so
Thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Thank you. Can we, I know that our Commissioner Cullen was caught out in the winter storm out in that part of the country, and Commissioner Joseph had a family emergency. So could we go ahead, can I make a motion to excuse absent commissioners? And that was Commissioner Cullen right now texting me. He's having trouble logging on, but I know their service over there is just a little shoddy. So I move to excuse absent commissioners at this time. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Can you call the roll, Assistant Clerk?
Commission members Deloche,
Here.
Hone,
Here.
Pope,
Here.
Chairman Cannon.
Aye.
In regards to Vice Chair Carter, do we need to excuse her as well?
Yes, please. She will jump. She's going to jump on soon too.
Okay, so she will be in attendance.
Yes,
Okay.
That's all indications are.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to our invocation. I believe we have our very own Bishop Henry Hearns here to lead us in our invocation, so I will hand it over to you.
Well, listen, let me tell you, you along with Brother Holly and all of the commission, thank you so much for allowing an old man to jump in the middle of a bunch of young bucks and ladies like you all and have a time to pray with you. I appreciate the opportunity. I also want to say to you all in preparing our hearts to pray that you all are established at a very, very critical time in our time and in our nation when politics are going wild, all kind of things are going on every direction, and it's seemingly everybody wants a different direction, and everybody's saying that they're right. So I'm praying for you all as I pray today that you all will stick together as a team, as one person, and express your differences. But then when it's all said and done, come to a conclusion that is overall best for your community rather than your own desires. That's going to be the directions of my prayer. And again, thank you all for allowing me to be on, and I'll be glad to pray anytime that you allow me and ask me. I'll be glad to. With that in mind, let's pray. Oh God, we come thanking you for this opportunity to be in the midst of young men and women of our community who care enough to put their names out there, to put their reputations out there, and still be willing to be misunderstood in order to bring goodness to our community. We thank you for that. Thank you for their advisor, Brother Holly, Nigel Holly. Thank you for our mayor who set this in order. And I thank you for our leader, Brother Cannon, and I ask you to just strengthen his mind, give him good wisdom, patience, and whatever he needs to hear everybody out and bring them to a common ground of decisions on whatever comes before their plate. Now, God, we can't do it without you, but we know that through you, all things are possible. I ask your blessings on every one of these commissioners, that they will do what they need to do, not because of their own personal desires, but because of the overall good for the Lancaster and the Antelope Valley community. God, we thank you again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And God bless you.
Amen. God bless you. Thank you so much, Bishop, for that beautiful invocation. All right, so we're going to change the order of the presentations a little bit. We're going to have Justice Sunday, Bishop Hearns, and Nigel Holly go before the school district. But first and foremost, I believe that we have a Vanilla Valley Union High School student, Betty O'Connor, who also was in the Justice Sunday play. And so, Betty, would you like to go ahead and say your poem right now? Is Betty on call?
Yes.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
All right. Here I am before my final moments. The moments I shall use to reflect on my life. America, can you hear me? Did my letter arrive? My name is Jacob Lawrence, and I'm here to share my importance. I was a renowned artist of my time, known for my illustrations of vivid colors and my service as professor of art. Spent a number of 15 years at the University of Washington, Atlantic City. It was always quite pretty. September 7th, 1917, the day I was born. I was the firstborn. My mom was my biggest supporter. She gave me encouragement for the brilliant art that she could see in my heart. America, are you reading my letter? We are getting to the center. I won a scholarship to the American Art School and received my funding for the Fellow Art Project in 1939. It was a sign. Maybe it was my time to shine. The outbreak hit for World War II. I was drafted for the fight. I am giving my all. I will not give up on the brawl. I made my paintings. I documented my experience, but in the end, my engravings were lost. America, here we are at the center. Do you still hear my voice? Are you keeping my letter? Don't throw it out. Listen to what I must say. When I returned to New York, I honed my skills in craft, but depression hit me like a draft. My world felt as though it was crumbling. I needed help, so I admitted myself to the Hillside Hospital. I spent my time there for about a year. Things were becoming crystal clear. I made artwork based on my emotional state. I used the subdued colors and the melancholy figures to express what was in my heart. Can you see the sharp contrast in my art? America, could you see my pain? I had to find my way through so that I could start anew. I made work based on memories of performances. The Apollo Theater. It was always sweeter. I got accepted as professor at the University in Seattle. Are you proud of me? This is the key. I taught I retired in 1986. I spent the rest of my life painting commissions and making limited edition prints to help fund profits for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the Children's Defense Fund. America, my pen is starting to give out. My hands are shaking and we are reaching the end. Every story has its ending, whether it's good or bad. I died on June 9th, 2000, but I kept painting till the end. America, could you still hear till the end? My pen is running out of ink and now it is my time to say goodbye. In the end, I'm pleased with the impact I made in the people I have helped. In the end, I hope I live on in your memory. Can you hear me? America, do you hear my voice?
Wow.
America, do you have my letter? Do you hear my voice as I tell you who I am? America, this is my letter to you. Signed, Jacob Lawrence.
Thank you so much, Betty. Let's give it up for Betty, y'all. This brings us to our next presenters, the Justice Sunday and the Pathways program, something that, which is how we heard of Betty, which is how I heard of Betty. So I'm just going to hand it over to Nigel Holly and Bishop Hearns, and they're going to talk to us today about Justice Sunday and the Pathways program. Go ahead, y'all.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Betty, for joining the call. Thank you, commissioners, for inviting us. I would like to also thank everyone that's on the call. And Bishop will start us off. He'll tell you a little bit about Justice Sunday and the history, and then I'll jump in after he completes that.
Very good. Thank you so very much, you all. I'm very honored to be a part of the program tonight. Let me jump way back to April the 4th in 1968, when Martin Luther King was assassinated. And his whole life and death and living and walking and bus riding and jail trips was all for one thing that he referred to, and that is justice. for all, not just justice for Black, but justice for all of Americans. That every American, be they naturalized, born, or whatever, is a part of receiving what the opportunity to do what they would like to do. Then we moved forward, and out at Edwards Air Force Base, I was working there at the time, and I had a chance to get involved with bringing some of the Black generals to Edwards Air Force Base and then to the city. And then in the middle 80s, the city of Lancaster hosted the program right out on the front lawn in January. And it was, that particular year was quite cold, but the city allowed us to do it. They put up mics and everything else. And since that time, the city had one way or the other sponsored the program to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. Then finally, the holiday was approved for Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. And then after that, we brought forth in the year of 2000, I'm jumping a lot of stuff because I know you don't have time to hear all of this, but we, in the year of 2000, a lady by the name of Addie Richburg, who now is in Washington, D.C., and her husband at the time, who was alive, started what they call a Justice Sunday celebration in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. So instead of calling it a memorial, we call it Justice Sunday. And that went on for quite a while. And the city of Lancaster finally picked up the total tab and has been doing that now for quite a few years, the total tab of sponsoring the Justice Sunday. And that's kind of the long and short of it. And then I guess about 5 years ago or so, there was a bunch of us older people who had been carrying on Justice Sunday. And of course, Nigel Hawley was a member of our church, and I could see in him by the leadership of the Holy Spirit. Now, I'm not necessarily trying to preach to you all, but that's who I follow, and that's the Holy Spirit himself. When he speaks to me and tells me about people, things, and so forth. And I went to him and asked him if he could get the kids involved a little bit. And now they got the whole thing. So all of the schools and the city of Lancaster, Dr.
Vieira.
Dr. Vieira. And then this good brother sitting in the front of me here, Leader Rico, and he's always been right there to one way or the other help us to get through whatever we couldn't get through. And I appreciate that, Lee. Thank you so very much for all that you've done. So basically, that's the quick look at how this thing started and where we are right now. And then Nigel can tell you about all of the different people who've gotten involved, including the sheriff department, both cities and so forth.
Thank you for that, Bishop. So when Bishop and I spoke about Justice Sunday and making it a more youth-centric program, I had the opportunity to bring it to the Pathways program. So just a really quick snapshot of the Pathways program. The Pathways program is a part of the Antelope Valley Education Alliance. And as Lee would like to say, it's the lighter side of public safety. And so what we started off as is a program that primarily focused on truancy and getting kids to actually attend class, offering them mentorship, after school programs, and the resources that they needed to go to school. But because of our leadership style, we were able to remain fluid And so a part of Pathways ventured off into Justice Sunday and the California Association of Youth Courts and the Los Angeles County Superior Court's Youth Court program. And we just kind of were able to just expand the Pathways program to where we weren't only reaching students at one high school, but we began to work with students all across the valley, both Palmdale and Lancaster. So with that, we were able to recruit students under the Justice Sunday umbrella, which falls under the umbrella of the National Alliance of Faith and Justice. So Justice Sunday is a part of a national alliance. And to just brag on what the city of Lancaster has been able to do as a whole through the Pathways program and through working with Dr. David Vieira and Greg Meehan for the last couple of years now. We've been able to not only get local recognition, but our youth have been appointed as ambassadors for the country when it comes to African American history under the 400 Years of the African American History Commission Act that was signed into law in late 2017 to early 2018. What we've done this year with Justice Sunday is what we've been doing for the last few years, and that is to bring students to the forefront, give them a sounding board so that they may be heard, so that their point of views can be heard, but also to deliver the information that they learn about African American history to the community in a fun way, however, maintaining the educational component. This year, we used the venue of music to deliver that message. Last year, we used we discussed things such as what's going on with law enforcement. We've covered everything. So these kids do not hesitate to be transparent and honest in what they are delivering through the Justice Sunday program. These kids, with the kids that we work with, get the opportunity to write a play. They get the opportunity to help produce a play and then perform a play. The city of Lancaster has taken on the full financial responsibility for the play, and I guess Palmdale is getting a little jealous because they did reach out to us and asked if we can have not just a Justice Sunday, but a Justice Weekend. So if we can do the Palmdale Playhouse on Saturdays and then do the Justice Sunday on Sundays. In short, what we are here to do through the Pathways program is open up every door that we possibly can to give youth an opportunity to have access to resources, to be educated, to be mentored, and to also be seen to take ownership of their community and to take ownership of the direction of the community by remembering the past, by remembering African American history, and starting to plant seeds not only in their own households, but throughout the households of each and every other student that they go to school with. So that's sort of the kind of a convoluted little breakdown of what we do. And at this point, we're more than happy to answer any questions in regards to Justice Sunday or the Pathway.
You may want to mention, Nigel, that a couple of the young people that are already out at school, like in Atlanta, the young man. Go ahead.
I can do that. Kind of a subset of Justice Sunday and some of the things we've been doing is that we're probably somewhere around the 92% success rate of kids who actually perform in Justice Sunday, the ones that actually help write it, help act, that actually act in it. Those kids, we're sitting somewhere around 90 to 92% success rate of sending them off to some form of higher education, be it college or the military or some form of higher education. So just giving them that opportunity to network with city officials, to network with state officials has given them that confidence to continue to strive forward and be successful.
You all, anybody have any questions to us?
Thank you, Nigel and Bishop Hearns. And I'll just start with the first commissioner that I see. Commissioner Holm, do you have any questions for our presenters?
I don't have any questions particularly, but I just want to say that this sounds like an awesome program, and I'm glad that it's there. It sounds like it's a great opportunity for these kids to learn something, and like you said, to go on to something higher. That's awesome. So thank you. Just thank you for doing it.
Glad to do it, and I say glad to do it, but actually the guy who is really in the trenches and making it happen is Nigel Holly.
Thank you for that, Bishop. But it's a team effort. I mean,
it's a team effort.
I get the backing of public safety. I get the backing of the Antelope Valley Union High School District. It's a team effort.
Thank you. Commissioner Deloche.
I just want to say again, thank you, gentlemen, for your leadership. Thank you for continuing to bring this quality programming to the Antelope Valley. It's a huge endeavor every year, and I'm so proud of you guys for it. And again, I've been a part of it, and I think Brother Holly, he was mentioning my former student, Joseph, who is now in Atlanta. So congratulations on your success rate. I pumped a lot of students through there from my current job and my previous job. So again, thank you guys. Thank you again, Brother Dorico, for helping to make that partnership happen.
We do really appreciate that. And Lee has just been right there for every turn, not only this program, but everything else that I've been involved in while I was the mayor of the city and afterward as well. And I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Bishop. I have to tell you, to be honest with you, it's been an honor to be associated with this program, and all the folks I see here from the high school district. I'm saying hi to everybody. I haven't talked to you guys in a while, but Nigel does a great job, and John over there with those kids and putting this together. And I think for the public, when we come back, especially in the live show, okay, to watch these kids, how they blossom through this process. And they do a heck of a job. And I mean, any concern anyone might have for the future, that will be taken care of at that moment, and watch these kids in action. It's a very impressive program, as well as it's a great educational component to it. And I think it's just kind of remarkable to watch how these kids grow and blossom through that process. So it's been my privilege to be a part of it, and anything in the future that's related to any of these type programs, we definitely want to be a part of that at the city of Lancaster. It serves us well for the future.
I might mention the fact that on the 23rd, did I say that? Is that right, Nigel? 23rd of March coming up. Mm-hmm. The mayor and city council are going to honor these kids, about 25 or 30 of them. And they'll be honored that night virtually, one way or the other, however they choose to do that.
Thank you. Commissioner Pope, guest star. Any comments about Justice Sunday this year? You guys, Gio was guest starred in this year's Justice Sunday. He did his debut performance. Any comments?
Is that right?
Yeah, well, don't forget, Commissioner Cannon also joined us this year for Justice Sunday.
He did.
Dynamic duo, everybody.
Yeah, they put on their Afro wigs and got on stage and
I missed it.
Yes. I have to say that this was, speaking from experience, this was an amazing program. And when you give people the opportunity to network like that, but also to like really get involved in like their local community when you're a student, that is so important. I'm going to keep it brief, but I just wanted to say thank you to the both of you for your leadership, and thank you all for your partnerships with this sort of program, because these sorts of things, they produce the future of the city of Lancaster. And when we pay attention to that, and when we invest in that, like our branding says, like the possibilities are truly limitless. So thank you all so much. And I was honored to be a part of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Pope. And I couldn't have said that better myself. on a kind of personal note, and I back everybody's thanks for Nigel Hawley and Bishop Hearns and everybody that was involved in this. But to really reiterate what Bishop Hearns said, Nigel is in the trenches. I first came across Nigel on a personal note. My little sister, Nigel, was involved in Justice Sunday and with Nigel from her freshman year all the way into her senior year. And that transformation that I got to watch my little sister go through and her peers who were involved with other, initiatives, but just watching that transformation and seeing the young woman that she is becoming today. She's in college now. She's working. These programs work. These programs transform families and they help this community. And I've seen it firsthand. I know Giovanni got to witness the kind of talent. And these are when we talk about the initiatives that are already happening in the city and what the city is already doing, Justice Sunday and this Pathways program is changing lives. So again, thank you to our presenters, Nigel Hawley and Bishop Hearns. And thank you so much. I do want to note, I've been in text message contact with Commissioner Cullen, and he's still having Wi-Fi trouble. He's going to try to call in. I don't know if he's here, but I do see that our vice chair is here. So I want to note that our vice chair is in attendance at this time. Let's move on to our presenters from the Antelope Valley Union High School District. I don't know which one of you want to go first. We'll go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Good evening. My name is Diane Walker, and I'm the Director of Industry Liaison and Post-Secondary Partnerships for the Antelope Valley Union High School District. And it's my pleasure also to introduce Greg Nean, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Educational Services, Chandalyn Williams, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, and Betsy McKinstry, who is our Director of Career Technical Education. So I'm going to be sharing our presentation at this point. Excuse me for getting this in here. All right. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nean.
Good evening, members of the Equity Commission. It's always very humbling to follow the Bishop and Mr. Hawley, but we will do our best. We're very pleased to be here. We're always happy for the opportunity to share all the powerful work that our students and our staff are doing on our campuses. And we have to acknowledge unprecedented times. I wish that we were all in a meeting room together and could hear each other as humans. And just like that, we wish that our students could be on our campuses and we could be continuing this work together. We look forward to the day when, and hopefully in the near future, we look forward to the day when we can all be back together. I understand that we're limited on time, so I'm going to talk fast. There's a lot of text in these slides. We'll go through them, and we're all available. We have contact information at the end. We're available if you want to ask us questions or if you want to reach out individually. Next slide, please, Diane. So our mission, vision, and graduate student profile act as sort of our waypoints or our North Star. So all the decisions that we make for all of our students are kind of vetted through these three principles. And ultimately, when you boil them down, we want our students to graduate us, to leave us with options for both college and career. And we want those options to be as powerful and far-reaching as the students are willing to work for. Next slide, please. We started working in earnest on equity about 3.5 years ago. Miss Williams and I headed it up. It sounds funny to call her Miss Williams. She's always channeling to me. But we started working with some outside providers on equity, and we realized one of the things that we needed to do, equity is such a broad term and it's applied in so many different ways. We needed to start our own working definition of what equity really was. And what it comes down to is we want to provide students what they need. We can't guarantee that every student is going to have equal outcomes, but we want to provide equal inputs or equal opportunities for our chances to succeed. Next slide. And I think that this slide kind of sums up what we're trying to provide for students. All have different needs, and we recognize every student's an individual. We need to work harder for some to provide additional supports for some, while others are doing just fine on their own. And so the work that we've been doing is really taking a deep dive on what those needs are, and how, as we receive 7,000 new students every year, how can we work to identify those needs as quickly as possible. Next slide. Just a quick look at our district from a demographic breakdown. Roughly 4/5 of our students are students of color. And so that's something that we have to acknowledge, and that we understand that doesn't look exactly like our teaching population and our staff population, but we are working to address that, and we've seen some positive changes just in the last few years. Next slide. And then the other piece of this is our economically disadvantaged. Poverty is an equal opportunity inhibitor, and so we have to address that as a broad sweeping obstacle on our campus. And it's not prohibitive. It's not something we can't overcome, but we do have to address that, and we have to understand the various groups of students who have additional or unique needs, from foster youth to special education to our homeless students and to our students who English is a second language to them, and there's some additional supports that they need. Next slide. At this point, I'm happy to turn it over to my colleague and my partner in crime, Ms. Shannon Williams. Shannon?
Hi, good evening. Given the unique challenges our students face, we recognize the importance of addressing our students from a whole child approach. We made it our mission to not only address our students' academic needs, but also be intentional with addressing their social and emotional needs as well. Next slide. This work requires a great deal of collaboration among each division, specifically between our Educational and Student Services Division. And so we have ongoing conversations and collaboration that takes place on a daily basis that allow us to align our priorities and to ensure the programs and the services we bring forward are always student-centered and addresses the whole child. Next slide. So, given all of this, we have adopted a multi-tiered systems of support framework to provide support and address the needs of our students. This framework allows us to address the cause and not the symptom of student failure in the areas of academics, behavioral, and social emotional support from a 3-tiered approach. Tier 1 provides supports for all students. Tier 2 provides additional supports for those students who are not successful with just Tier 1 supports. And then Tier 3 provides more intensive supports for students who have not been successful with either Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports. Next slide. The Urban Scholars Program is a program we've had in place. This is our second year. It is an example of a Tier 2 support within our multi-tiered system of support framework. The program is currently at Antelope Valley High School, Eastside High School, and Palmdale High School. It's an evidence-based program, along with a partnership we have with the Social Justice Learning Institute that provides mentorship, leadership skills, and additional academic support for our young men of color. And one of the goals of the program is to divert our young men from the juvenile justice system by teaching leadership skills. Also, we have an array of services and supports for our foster youth. The Antelope Valley serves the largest percentage of foster youth within the state of California, right here in the Antelope Valley. And so we've had to be creative in terms of how we provide that additional support for our foster youth as well, and how we build a system of support to help address their needs. The supports that we have in place, we consider them Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. We have a foster youth counselor that's assigned to each of our campuses. We also have an ambassador program in which there are selected foster youth students who meet as a group on an ongoing basis throughout the year, and their main purpose is to advocate for the needs of our foster youth district-wide. they provide our staff a great deal of insight of how to best address the needs of our foster youth. They've also been asked to be called, they call themselves resilient scholars, and they have assumed leadership roles on all of our campuses. We value their feedback and their expertise, which allows us to become better informed and guide our decisions on how to best meet their needs. In addition, we've partnered with a nonprofit agency, Foster Ed, that provides educational liaisons on 4 of our campuses that provide additional one-to-one support for our foster youth. And we recently formalized a new partnership with Department of Children and Family Services, in which they are housing one of their social workers on 6 of our campuses. And they are there as a resource to our foster youth and our staff on a weekly basis. Next slide. We are very proud of an annual event we host for our foster youth called Independent City. In March, on a Saturday, staff volunteers their time and put together a mock city for our foster youth to navigate real-life challenges. Our students receive an adult profile, an occupation, and the goal for that day is to navigate the city successfully as they would as emancipated adults, and then, you know, at least have money left over to budget and to fill their needs. Next slide. So about 4 years ago, we developed a concept called Student Support Centers, and we have a Student Support Center on each of our campuses. They are designed to be a hub of resources on our campuses that allow us to address the needs of our students from a whole child approach. We utilize the Student Support Center to identify students who may need support in each of these areas, whether it's mental health services, attendance, health services, basic needs, social emotional support. And we look at our data, and it allows us to provide use a proactive approach to intervene with our students in a timely manner. And it also provides an opportunity to provide support for students who may be struggling during the school day and have their needs immediately met with an at-risk coordinator throughout the day. And so at this point, I'm going to punt it back to my colleague, Greg.
So Avid is a program that some of you may have heard of. It was originally developed for first-generation college-going students, but it's become so much more. And really, Avid is a focus on the academic skills, and there's a heavy focus on writing, on inquisitive questioning, on critical reading, and then the organization piece. Really, it's all the skills that you would need to be successful in college. There's also a focus on self-advocacy. So students may not know that they can go to a professor or a teacher and challenge their grade. That's one of the requirements. Students may not feel like they are up to taking an AP test. That's one of the requirements of the program. Applying to a college in the 12th grade, that's one of the requirements of the program. So it's really an organizational structure with academic supports, and the supports aren't just in the Avid class, but they're offered campus-wide. And we're also very proud to have 2 of our schools that have achieved national demonstration status, and that's Knight High School and Eastside High School. And these are models for other schools and other districts to come look at and how to run an effective Avid program. Next slide. And then next, something that we're proud of, PSAT and SAT. It's been in the news over the past year and a half or so, but it was a requirement for admission to CSUs, UCs, and a lot of schools in the Western states take that as a standardized test that indicates or predicts success in college. And so we started 5 years ago offering the PSAT to all students from 9th grade through the 12th grade. It was given during the school day at no cost to the students. And it gave students some indication. There was a lot of students who didn't feel like they could be successful in college or even taking the test, and they got an indication that, hey, I'm pretty good. And when they get to the 10th grade and take it, they can qualify for the National Merit Scholarship Quotient, and all of a sudden they start getting letters from colleges. And so it changes the mindset. Then we also started offering the SAT school day for all 11th graders in the spring. And that's the first test. They can take it multiple more times, but at least it gives them a baseline of where they stand with regards to the SAT. And then finally, AP or advanced placement courses we have on all of our campuses. And if a student takes the AP class, they don't have to, it's not a requirement to take it, but if they take the AP exam and depending on the college, they receive a score of 3 or 4, they can receive credit for that class in college. And we started encouraging more students, taking down barriers, more students to take AP classes, heavily encouraging the test. And we saw, that's a whole separate presentation to offer, but we saw students starting to excel at these tests. And we thought there was going to be an implementation dip. Every year our numbers went up, and every year our qualifying scores went up. And our students, they blew us away with what they were able to do. And they were able to carry that forward for potential credit in their college when they went to college. We offered every single one of our students unlimited AP tests for $5 each. And that really did a great deal to take a burden off of our parents in paying for these tests. Next slide. And then finally, we have the International Baccalaureate Program. And this is a 4-year course of study. We offer pre-IB, which is the 9th and 10th grade course, at all of our sites. If the students complete all the components of pre-IB, they can transfer to Quartz Hill High School if they choose to complete their IB diploma program. And IB, once you have your diploma, that much like AP, some of the tests will qualify for college credit. But once you have your IB diploma, there's certain advances in college admission. So colleges recognize some of these programs as this student has the potential to be more successful. So they get a little bit of a boost when it comes to enrollment, especially in colleges that are a little bit more difficult to get into. And at this point, I'm pleased to hand it over to Dr. Betsy McKinstry. She's going to talk about our fabulous career technical education programs. Betsy?
Thank you so much, Greg. And I'd also like to extend my thanks to the commissioners for not only this invite, but supporting our students so that our community can prosper. So it's we're all stakeholders in students' education and career goals, and appreciate everything that I've heard today that you're addressing their needs. Next slide, Diane. So one of the reasons I wanted to start with this slide is we're really all aware about how much the workforce is changing, and emerging careers are coming out based on technology. So career technical education has evolved from the voc ed of my generation's high school era to now the 21st century CTE. And that piece is to really look and integrate the importance of longer term for future ready workforce planning into program development and course offerings. This is really especially important when we have to note that the knowledge, abilities, and skills needed in the workforce in 5 to 10 years, when our current freshmen will be entering employment, will be very different than today's workforce. So I want to just highlight the fact that we have to look at artificial intelligence, data science, creativity, being a lifelong learner, and the importance of 2 to 4 year degree programs. Next slide. Every CTE program has to address these indicators listed on this slide, not only for CTE funding purposes, but really to ensure quality and continuous improvement and to meet the needs of all students. You know, it used to be that students ended up going on the job and career path or the college path. And now more than ever, those two paths are really integrated. And so based on these particular quality indicators that we're always addressing, we've moved from really a single course to teach a skill to a comprehensive approach to implement a CTE program. And that's the basis of what we do, when we do it, and where our programs are offered. Next slide. One of the ways that we're looking at this, especially from an equity standpoint, is that we've embraced the frameworks of linked learning. And the linked learning model says that there's 4 components to that it's really important that students have the academic knowledge and the technical knowledge, have work-based learning opportunities, and to Chandelin's point, addressing the whole child, really important that we also integrate the student support services needed for students to be successful in all of those other 3 areas. You can see from this particular slide that students in linked learning programs gain more credits, take more college prep courses, enroll in post-secondary education, especially specifically for underrepresented students. And so it really is important at the 9th grade level that we open up our linked learning programs and academies to all students so that they can get the support services needed to move through these particular programs. And I want to also note that Eastside High School and Lancaster High School were 2 of the first 12 gold certified linked learning academies in California. Next slide. This slide just gives a brief overview of our career academies and the success of students within these programs. And again, it kind of mirrors the demographics of our district, as well as the success of what happens to students when they're in a cohorted model that addresses academic and technical coursework, as well as support services and relationships in an interdisciplinary content area. Next slide, please. So just really briefly, we hear all the time that we don't offer, CTE or voc ed courses anymore in the district. And so the opportunity to create awareness in this area, is always a great for us. We have approximately 8,500 students in the district that take at a minimum of 1 CTE course. We have 30 CTE courses that are articulated with Antelope Valley College, which means that a student can take the high school course, and upon enrollment and a gaining of credits at ABC, they also get their high school course counted to their college credit. We have approximately 95% of our students in CTE academies enroll in post-secondary, are in the workforce or military 6 months after graduating from high school. And the graduation rate for our CTE students is higher than that of their peers. Next slide, please. So the meat of our program and an understanding is that the students take 4 CTE course sequences in 9 different industry sectors within our district. They're listed here. We have a lot of students that just take an introductory exploratory course, and that's great because they learn whether they love something or also that maybe this is not really the path that they should take. But ideally, what we want students to do is to enter a program at the introductory level and then take 3 to 4 courses in that particular area. Next slide. So some of our accomplishments and where we're moving forward in our course offerings is that we've started a new education and social service academy to create a homegrown pipeline for education and social service agencies and to increase the diversity of our workforce in these areas at Eastside High School. And Mr. Nehan talked about that before. It is a challenge nationwide. But we know that if, just like our STEM workforce, if we start in high school and develop these students in an interest in education and in social service, and they stay in our community, it will benefit all of us from a standpoint of the homegrown pipeline. We've also, STEM we know is really, really important to our aerospace community and those businesses and industries that support it. So we are always looking at expanding our STEM courses. So this year, what we did is, even with COVID, we started robotics, drone technology, and health science programs after school. We actually did that before COVID, but we're continuing that even in a virtual environment to allow students to really work within those skills and, again, progress within our community to take those jobs in the aerospace industry, which are high wage, high skilled jobs. We further developed a film and TV academy at Quartz Hill High School, and we've expanded our Northrop Grumman internship opportunities to Antelope Valley High School, Lancaster High School, and Palmdale High School. So this is what's next for us. We really are looking at, as I mentioned at the first slide, how important it is for us to stay on top of what the technologies students are going to learn and what the skills that they need in these particular programs. We have two really major grant funding sources, the Career Technical Education Incentive Grant through California Department of Education and the K-12 Strong Workforce Grant through the Chancellor's Office. Both of those grants totaled for the high school district over $3 million. And we're using those dollars to help students to go through those pathways onto the community college and into the workforce. The digital badge system is a really important piece to workplace readiness and employability. And so we're continuing to try to pilot and implement that, as well as industry valued certifications. We know if somebody walks in with an Adobe certification and they've taken an industry test or a Cisco networking certification, that opens up a lot of opportunities and jobs. We are working to complete our composite lab at Lancaster High School. We do have a composite lab at Knight High School. We opened a year and a half ago, and we want to put one on this side of the valley that gives students those particular skill levels. We've expanded manufacturing and agriculture programs at Antelope Valley High School, and we've increased our community partnerships. And in addition, we've also added a manufacturing courses at our continuation schools to give students another opportunity to build skills and knowledge. And I will turn this back over to Mr. Nehan. Thank you.
Actually, Shannon, you want to take this?
I'll take it. So really, this work is simply about empowering all of our students to succeed by building an equitable educational environment that empowers each one of them. We'd like to take just a quick moment to highlight some student voices, a few of our students, and how this work has led to opportunities and supports, which has provided what each one of them needed to be successful in the classroom and beyond. It's only about 2.5 minutes.
A lot of us come from backgrounds that you would expect us to fail. A lot of people expect a lot of us to not really amount to much. And when you just look at the students in this district, we surpass those expectations. We do amazing things. We just strive for greatness, and I think that our district definitely helps us reach that.
I'm proud to be a student of the Antelope Valley High School District because of their academic support that they provide, from the teachers to the staff.
Through Khan Academy, I helped raise my SAT score, and then through tutor.com, even just in the last week, I actually used it to help grade one of my essays, and it just gave me that in-depth sort of feeling.
But there's things like clubs and sports that, clubs can show you, they can help you get into volunteering and show you how to give back to the community.
We have pep rallies, we have art talks, we have after school meetings with the students and teachers, and it shows a very positive vibe here at school.
Like I'm personally in link crew, economics club, and captain of the football team here. So yeah, I feel like the more you get involved, the more you feel like you're in love with high school. While sports can, give you a different perspective on failing or winning or things that you might not necessarily just get from a lesson in class.
I have absolutely been able to take advantage of the AP course selection. Since I've been a freshman, I've taken a total of 7 AP classes. I've also taken a lot of honors classes.
And then the after-school tutoring is also a really big and important thing because some students aren't able to get all the help that they need in class or maybe at home. So to know that they have a place after school that they can come to get that support and learn a little more.
If I had to pay fully for these, it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been able to get the college credit that I was able to get. AP tests are upwards of $90 and we get them for only $5.
I'm given a lot of opportunities and I'm also given the support to go out and take those opportunities.
Next slide. So the link to this video, given the interest of time, we can provide that to you and you can watch it at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your time this evening. We're happy to answer any questions and our contact information is included in case you'd like to reach out in the future. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much to our presenters from the school district. And that was a great presentation on some of the services they have, some of the services that I'm familiar with. And that was a great way to end it off on those student testimonials. While we're here, I might as well just say it. You have 2 students that have freshly just graduated from your high school district on this commission. Myself, I graduated Desert West in 2018, and Giovanni Pope, he graduated recently from Lancaster High School. So the programs that they offer and what they're doing over at the school district is working, y'all, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And I just want to say thank you. And a big shout out to Kevin Wasner, who was the the assistant principal at Desert Winds High School. What those students were saying is right. When I was at Desert Winds, Mr. Wasner knew my passion for education. He cared and he knew that I wanted to grow up and be a teacher and I wanted to go to school to be a teacher. And so he referred me to the school district right after high school to work with my English teacher. I want to be an English teacher in summer school to be an Avid tutor. So that was my first job out of high school. So, in theory and in practice, what they're doing at the high school district is commendable. And I wanted to thank you guys so much. I did have one question. What is these programs that you guys all presented in these initiatives, in these resources, how has COVID-19 affected that, right? And with students learning from home and with a learning at home curriculum, so I guess it's a double-sided question. How has the pandemic affected that? And when it comes to the curriculum, are students being graded on a curve because of the current circumstances?
Those are great questions and a lot of long answers. So the first part of your question is just I think the students are fatigued. We've all sat through countless Zoom meetings, and it takes a different toll on your mind, your eyes, and your body. So I think that there's a high level of fatigue on the part of our students. They've persevered incredibly. Our teaching staff and our support staffs have been incredible in adapting in such a short time to this new environment. We all know that we're better off in person, but also we know that in times like this, things that weren't successful, things that didn't thrive, they don't survive. And we're going to come out on the other side with new skills, with new ways of doing things that are going to be better for our students in the long run. The other question, to say that it's a curve, not necessarily, there's no mandated curve, but we've worked with our teachers, and I think that they understand that it's different, and the amount of information that you can convey in the way that we have our schedules structured is different than the amount you can convey in a traditional 1 through 6 or 4 period day, given your instructional setting. So the teachers are working to make sure that they're getting the fundamental, foundational, and critical points of their content without going the full spectrum. So taking portions of reading versus reading the full novel, making sure that they understand the construct and the pathway to solution in mathematical problems or equations without having the student do 10 or 15 or 20. And then the teachers have been, for the most part, I can't speak for all, but there's been some compassion and there's been some relief for the students when it comes to grading. So long answer, but so much more we could say about it.
Thank you. And I do appreciate you guys getting your contact information to us. I look forward to following up on a lot of what you guys just presented. So I will open it up to any of the other commissioners that might have any questions. Anybody? All right, we can move on if nobody has anything. Again,
I have a question, John. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I have a question about a couple questions. The student support centers, are those like drop-in centers? Are they something that they have to have an appointment for, or something that the students know is available all the time? How does that work?
So it functions as a hub of resources. When we were all on campus, we had an at promise is what we call our coordinators now, an at promise coordinator assigned each period of the day. And so it functioned in kind of a two-pronged approach. We look at data and identify kids who may need additional support, and we refer the kids there. And also we use our student support center as a way to, in terms of an alternative to suspension. So if there was an infraction or something that took place, that our students are referred to our student support center for additional support in lieu of being suspended off campus. We have transitioned our student support centers virtually. Given that, we're in during this time. And so our kids are able to still be referred. And then also there is a drop-in at this during this time where our students are able to drop in if they need some additional support, or our staff can also refer them for additional support.
Awesome. Thank you. And can I ask one more question? I think it's great with what you're doing with the AP test. I remember I graduated from Quartz Hill High School almost 20 years ago, and I remember having to pay for those AP tests, and they were a good investment, right? Because like you said, they do earn you college credits, but I'm wondering how you are going about maybe engaging parents, because I know that was something that it was hard for me to explain to my parents, I need $100 to take this test. Well, why? I'm not going to give you $100 to take a test, and if you're running into that kind of trouble, especially with first generation college students, and then on top of that, I know that, we've got all these things to prepare them to get into college. What sort of advice and follow up are we giving them? Like, once you hit college, this is kind of what you should do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great questions. With regards to the AP and specifically parent involvement, we, as a district, we cover all but $5 of every AP test. It doesn't matter the student's socioeconomic status or free and reduced lunch status. So the district will cover every test that the student wants to take, and they have to pay $5. If that's an issue, probably the same as when you were in school, there were AP clubs, there were fundraising opportunities to defray some of those costs. So we don't see that as a problem. But what we have done is added a second back to school night. And as a part of our new local control accountability plan and our new funding formula, we've had to engage parents in a way that we haven't done before. So we have the second back to school night, and we offer so much information, and especially around AP courses and the AP exams, the benefits of taking the courses and the exams. So parents have much more information. Again, we've taken great steps to lower barriers. It used to be you had to have a teacher sign for you to get into an AP class. You had to have a recommendation. Not anymore. If a student wants to take an AP class, they take that class, and they're actually encouraged to stretch themselves. And our students have blown me away with what they're able to do when the challenge is put in front of them. The second part of your question was, just to rephrase it, is what are we doing to prepare our students once they get to college? One of the biggest challenges students face with success in college is writing. There's the old adage that math will get you into college, but writing will keep you there. So we have a district-wide writing initiative where all students in all grade levels twice a year will write to a prompt, and then that prompt, and it's usually an older recycled SAT question, that the student products are graded by the whole faculty at the school that they're from. So it gives them feedback, and they're double graded. So it gives the students feedback from two different college graduates. It gives them areas to work on, and it gives them the practice of writing. And we have a heavy focus on literacy and a heavy focus on writing across all curriculum. We have a number of other programs with Avid and the Cte programs have a focus on college. But you make a great point. It's not just getting our high school students into college, but it's getting them through college. It's preparing them with the skills that are going to get them all the way through. So we have plenty more we can do, but at this point, we do our best to prepare students for success in college.
Could I chime in just a moment?
Please, Diane.
In addition, and I know Dr. McKinstry could address this in much more detail, we also have our College Information Night every year, which you may have attended when you were in our schools. At the AV Fairgrounds, we normally have 3,000 to 4,000 family members and students attend to speak with college representatives and learn about those different post-secondary institutions firsthand from the college reps. And then in addition, Dr. McKinstry mentioned our articulated courses with Antelope Valley College. So the student is taking a high school course that's equivalent to a college course while they're still in high school, and getting a taste of that to see what the standards are. We also have dual enrollment courses, which are actually college courses taught on our high school campuses. They're what we call IGETC, or transfer level general education classes right now at Lancaster, Highland, and Quartz Hill high schools. And the students are actually college students at the time. And statistics and research tends to show that students who get that kind of college credit while they're still in high school persist better while they're in post-secondary because they've had exposure to it. So we make those available to any student. They just have to meet the admissions requirements for ABC, which is a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. And it's been quite successful.
Thank you. Any other questions from our commission? Yeah. Commissioner Pope, take it.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go right ahead.
No, I got you next. I already recognize you, Commissioner Pope. I got you next, Vice Chair.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you so much for that presentation. And given the fact that, as Chairman Cannon said, I did just graduate from your campuses, it's really nice to hear that there was a method to all of those things that I saw on campus. Like, it was truly amazing to actually get an understanding for how those play into the academic relevance of a student's education. But I did just want to ask very briefly about, obviously, during these time and circumstances, as you said, there are a lot of strains that are being placed on both teachers, students, and staff alike. And so I am just curious about how the district has adapted to accommodating students' mental health and providing students with mental health resources during this time.
We have been very intentional in terms of ensuring that we have a strong continuum of mental health services for our students. We have counselors, over 80 counselors at all of our schools. We also have mental health therapists that provide additional support for our students with disabilities. We also hired our 4 educational social workers as well that are part of our staff that provide supports to our students. We established a mental health hotline, as well as a number of offerings in terms of resources, not only for our students, but also for our parents and our staff regarding supports for mental health services. And so Diane just pulled up our website that displays a lot of the support services that we have in place for our students. And so we are constantly, in developing and improving upon our services. Most recently, our counseling staff developed a virtual calming room, a website. And so it's for, not only it was developed for our students, but our staff are using it as well. And so it's just a way that provides tools and another way to, in terms of addressing mental health needs and a virtual, this virtual calming room was designed to assist with identifying strategies for helping our students managing their feelings and emotions. In addition to that, we recently adopted a social emotional learning curriculum called Habitudes, and that curriculum is being utilized by our teachers in many of our classrooms to address the social emotional learning competency, self-awareness, how to manage your emotions and your feelings. And so recognizing that given this time and our kids are isolated and our kids need that additional support and that mental health support, we have developed some ways in which our students can access those supports virtually and, if need be, on campus as well.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that question. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Pope. Vice Chair Carter?
Yes, you guys talked about the PSAT test that your students take, I guess just as a test, basically. And it seems you reach out, if I heard correctly, or think I heard anyway, that you kind of reach out to students who may not have shown that they are not interested in a higher education, like going on to college. And then if you can get them to take those tests and they do well, have you just looked at the outcomes of that, maybe changing their mind as far as pursuing higher education? If they take those practice PSATs and they do well, have you seen those type of students seem to change their attitude and actually go on to higher education? That's the first part of my question. And the second part has something to do with the mental health, and just with all of the changes with COVID, and a lot of the students who have graduated, came out of college at these times, have not become gainfully employed as expected, once you graduate from college. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you guys are doing to, just keep children interested in pursuing a college education beyond COVID.
So with regards to your question about the PSAT and the SAT, we offer it during the school day. Mm-hmm. No student is forced to take it, but it's offered during the school day, and it's right in front of them. The vast majority of our students take the test. So we don't seek anyone out, we don't search them out, but then the students get their results, and that's when the light bulb goes off that the majority of our students think, because they're first generation college going students, they don't necessarily think that they can be successful in college. We have seen some other students where they thought that they were far better prepared than they were, and they got their results and realized they had some more work to do. What we use those results as a few different things. We use them as predictive results for the 11th grade CASP test, which is the standardized state test. And we also use it in other ways to look at how we're doing in our teaching, especially in English language arts and math. One thing that the state has started to do is track college enrollments. And we didn't see this before. It was college enrollments and students who go to college. Usually when a student left us, they graduated and they moved on. We didn't have the ability to look the next year out, or the second year, third year. But now the state is tracking that. So we'll be able to see 2 years ago was the first year. Last year was COVID. We didn't get the data. So when this gets back on track, we'll be able to see those students and how well or how much better they're doing in their college, their success once they get into college and get through year 1, year 2, year 3. And then we'll continue to hone our practices on how we can better prepare them for college.
All right. Have all the commissioners who have questions or comments got a chance?
I have a question, Chairman.
Dr. Deloche, go ahead.
So I'm excited to see the work that you guys are doing. So thank you so much for the presentation. I'm learning a lot. I'm excited about the structures that you guys are putting in place, and proud that you're bringing the SAT in as a test in addition to the PSAT. Excited to see the Avid. Most of the structures that you guys talked about today were for all students. And again, because this commission is focused on diversity and inclusion, I'm curious to know, how are you guys using data to inform your practice with the Tier 3 students? Because most of the programs we talked about are equitable, but they're for any student. And so therefore that the bottom of that pyramid. So again, how are you guys using data to identify students who need those Tier 3 supports and funneling resources to them and them only?
Shannon, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So through the MTSS, the multi-tier system of supports framework, as part of that framework, it's data-driven. And so as part of the framework, Tier 1 are supports for all students. So when there are students, the school sites, the admin teams on an ongoing basis review data to determine which student may need to have more support in terms of Tier 2 support. So they may look at attendance, they look at the behaviors, attendance, behavior, and academics. And there are criteria that is set that would drive what the next step would be in terms of referring that student to a higher level need of support, which would be a Tier 2, then from a Tier 2, then to a Tier 3 support. So through our admin teams and as part of their weekly and monthly data discussions is how they identify kids who may need a higher level of support. And as we look at that data as well, that data it informs our decisions in terms of what types of supports and programs and services are needed to address the needs of our students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deloche. I think we got to everybody. Because we're pressed on time, we're gonna move on. But I want to again thank our representatives from the school districts for coming out. This relationship between our commission and the Antelope Valley Union High School District is important going forward in the work that this commission does. So again, you'll be hearing from me. More specifically, I really want to follow up with you guys on what kind of financial literacy courses are provided to students. I know we talked a lot about jobs, talked about CTE, we talked about all of the services that you guys provide and offer. But and then I know Gio knows this. There's always kids that are selling cookies and that are selling chips and that are selling something, that are doing their thing. So I want to know what resources you guys have that are available that taps in and cultivates the entrepreneurial spirit in our young people. So again, thank you so much for coming to our commission and allowing us to ask questions and for that beautiful presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity. We're happy to come back anytime.
All right. Now,
it's a pleasure being here.
Of course. All right. Now, without further ado, we're going to hear from our public safety director and our captain of our very own Lancaster Sheriff Station, Director Jericho. And go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Chairman Cannon and commission members. Thank you for the opportunity to come introduce myself, number one, as the Director of Public Safety here at the City of Lancaster. And then just to briefly talk about some things that you may be very interested in as we move forward and some of the programs that we're doing here in the Public Safety Office that I think tie directly into the mission of this particular commission as it relates to our community and working closely in a model that promotes intervention and diversion, some of the programs that we already do that exist, and then moving forward probably with a lot of curiosity as it relates to our hybrid police model that is currently being developed and is a little bit behind schedule because of COVID, and how that interrelates to the current law enforcement model that is operating with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So just briefly is just more of a design of looking at things, again, like Nigel talked about earlier, and a model that we moved into a direction is one facet of things that we're looking at as a community to look at where those gaps are in services and how to promote that through a model that diverts people away from the criminal justice system. And that's really kind of the focus as it relates to the hybrid police model. Is the Sheriff's Department is an excellent department that's great for emergency response and priority response. And we really want, as a contract city, for the Sheriff's Department to focus on those issues as it relates to our community. Those other issues for the lower level type criminal behavior that can be easily diverted away from the criminal justice system, and then really focus on causation and intervention. And honestly, it could be a really long presentation on what that looks like and the current things that we're already operating in. Nigel already mentioned some of them with the Community Youth Court, the Teen Court Association, but we're also working very closely with other advocacy agencies and county agencies, state agencies, and federal agencies that exist within our community for service providers. One of the things we're just right now helping develop the Los Angeles County with, which Captain Weber is also involved in with his alternatives to incarceration, and really with a focus on service providers as well as bringing that issues to community members that are really in need and really looking at why people do the things they do and what brings them to the table and enters them into the criminal justice system, and work in that prohibitive mindset and restorative justice of diverting people away from this system. Okay, the ultimate thing is what we already do with a program in collaboration with our local court and with our alternative sentencing court, as well as with the DA and the public defender, is even up to a pre-booking diversion program. So in other words, once someone is actually arrested or detained, and once they're brought into booking, even if their case is diverted at some point after booking, there still exists a record of that arrest in anyone's criminal history. So even if a case is a DA reject or dismissed or something beyond that scope, it still introduces someone into the system that is tracked, and it's a record. That really becomes important as some of the programs like the high schools districts talked here for opportunities for kids beyond high school and our local level and our homegrown programs into aerospace or things as well that may very well, just the fact that they have a booking record, make them ineligible for employment. So we really want to focus on that as we develop these programs and as that relates in that hybrid model. I think the big thing for me is I would really like to create an opportunity. I've had a chance to talk to Sean individually, and I'm sure we'll be talking more, but I want to have an opportunity with each commissioner at some point, if you have the time available, to sit down with you and really give you a more in-depth introduction into what some of the logic and thinking is right now as it relates to these programs, introduce you to the things that we're already doing, or I can do that to the commission as a whole, however you'd like to see that, and then really get your input on what you envision as the things that would be most beneficial to the community as it relates to us developing this program. So that was more of an introduction for me. I know you guys had some questions for Captain Weber. I will tell you that we have a very involved captain at our local station. You can see still in his office at whatever time of day. He's very dedicated. We have a good relationship, and we work collaboratively on a lot of issues there and work those out amongst us. And I think what for us is what's really important, or especially for my department and the city, is the input from the community as we develop this project moving forward. So we've gone into an introduction stage. We've had some discussions about it and vetted that at a period of time. Now what you're going to start seeing is presentations that we'll be bringing forward to all the commissions as it relates to these programs that are developing to get everyone's input, and then as well as community outreach to get input from the community as a whole. Okay, so that's my brief introduction. I know you have some questions for the captain as it relates to a particular Senate bill as well, and he's prepared to speak to you about that.
Thank you, Mr. DeRico. Go ahead, Captain Weber. Was that Captain Weber that said something?
No, I didn't say anything, but did you have some questions for me?
I did. I actually had questions for both of you guys, actually.
Okay.
I guess I'll start with you. My first question would be, my first thing would say thank you. Like I just said with the school districts, our commission's relationship with the public safety department is paramount in our mission and our goals. My first question would be, so I know you told us about this hybrid police model that you guys were in the works on, but our agenda names you as the police chief. So at this time, does the city of Lancaster have a police department?
No. Actually, what it is we as a municipality and chartered through the state, we are responsible for law enforcement services within our community. We choose to contract for those services, for general law enforcement services, with the LA County Sheriff's Department, which is a long-term relationship within our community long before the city even incorporated in 1977. So that continues on a contract basis, and that is a year-to-year contract. Actually, it's a 5-year contract, but a renewal every year. And for the purposes of this, it was a conversation that Mayor Parris and the council had in a meeting, and really with a desire to look at where things fit in play as it relates to issues within the community that are not necessarily rise to the level of a law enforcement issue. Okay, but there's certain things that the city participants have to be empowered to do to be able to facilitate some of those issues. So yeah, he named me the chief of police in a meeting. There's nothing official at this point other than moving forward with the application process through the state, a charter for police department within the state, the approvals through the Department of Justice within the state. And then again, the Sheriff's Department's not leaving Lancaster at this point. There's no desire for the Sheriff's Department to be removed from the city and the city form its own fully staffed and fully operational police department. So I know there's been some concern in the community about exactly what does that mean. So again, it'll be working within a collaborative effort, but our focus in this hybrid law enforcement model is to work more on a community level for low level or quality of life issues, to address those issues more appropriately, and not tie up sheriff resources for multiple calls for service to the same location, that continuing ongoing issue that's not ever looked at the root of what's creating the problem. So it's to focus on really what that causation is, and then give folks for an opportunity for service providers or whatever it may be to come to resolution on that issue. And I think what we need to understand is this community right now in our current contract level, with everything inclusive with liability fund and everything, is, we're in that $30 million range on a contract rate. So how do we better utilize those resources for $30 million for a more appropriate level, and then those other issues to be dealt with more on a community level.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And I took a look at those city council meetings, and this leads me to my next question. And I know you said because of COVID, there was a delay and all that thing. So at this time, like, what is the current status of that hybrid police force? Kind of, what is the status of it right now? Is it still, like you said, it's still in the introductory kind of?
It is. Yeah. We're looking into how to develop on what that first phase looks like, and to create that priority within the community. There's discussion ongoing with the original consultant that was part of that development on building those policy and procedures, issues, and things moving forward on exactly what the mission looks like and into what thresholds are going to take place between the hybrid model versus the sheriff's department's part of the model. But let's be clear here. If you need the sheriff's department, you call the sheriff's station and they respond. If you have an emergency, you dial 911, the sheriff's department will respond in an emergency level. So those things don't go away. All right. The thing is to really look at an issue and say, okay, how do we stop this from occurring? Okay, what can we do to intercede here, and what model can we use? And if it's a low-level criminal type issue, is it something that's eligible for diversion away from the criminal justice system, which is really a priority right now, especially as it relates to our youth and them moving forward within their lives. And so that's a focus of these issues. What does first phase look like? We're developing a scope of work right now for the consultant on exactly what part of it they will do, and then developing those relationships based on the desire of the mayor and the city council, and again with community input as well as the commission's input and everything on developing what they see as those thresholds and priorities should be.
Okay. So when one of these meetings, there was a talk about what like the kind of staffing process would look like. I know there was some talk about ALADs and there will be retired deputies. So I guess, and I know that was a long time ago. I want to know right now, what is the what will this hybrid model, like the staffing, what is the hiring process going to be like? What is your vision for who will be staffing up this new department, police department, or hybrid model?
Well, it's going to be, there's certain level of enforcement. There's also a social worker type aspect to it for service providers and expertise in developing on making referral for services. And there's other ongoing issues as far as it relates to how those teams will actually look. And that's part of the development of this. So as now, it's not written in stone exactly what that looks like. That's part of this development stage and building this program. So it's a process going through that. And again, moving forward, there's going to be a lot more involvement, community involvement, as well as the mayor and council's desire to have that community input in developing exactly what that looks like.
Thank you. We're definitely excited about where this is going and being a part of that conversation now that our commission is established after this got off the ground. So based on on the vision of this initiative, what, in your view, what will oversight look like? Or do you guys have a vision of what oversight will look like over this?
I think that's going to be pretty up to the mayor and the city council on what that looks like. Obviously, we need to be responsive to any concern or needs of the community as a priority basis and how that priorities are developed. Oversight is I think it's important to have that community input. You know, as you saw earlier, like a lot of things that you saw from the high school district or the program that Nigel's working in and John Keith are things that developed from community need. Right? What did we recognize out there that needed to be done? I think that's really important as it relates to this, because every part of the community is going to see things differently. So there's a lot of ways to move forward here. I think the focus is really how do we better serve our community from that intervention mindset, and where does that take place? Okay, so we can, if there's behavior occurring, how do we convince people that behavior needs to stop and we move a different direction? At the same time, not putting someone in a box for their entire future that affects them. Okay, and that's where that came from. It also ties into all the programs that you've already looked at today. There's a tie-in from a community basis, because the schools, for example, are, they're a microcosm of what's occurring in our community. and those students should be our priority moving forward. So from this model is recognizing in different parts of our community what those concerns may be and addressing them based on that level. And how does that community want to be policed? How does the community feel it should be policed in what manner? And that's part of it. The other side of it is giving folks an avenue to resources for services, whatever that may be. And I think Nigel could talk about why it was fascinating when that program, we initiated it just even at AV High School, why kids weren't coming to school, why they were missing class and all the things we probably had a preconceived mindset of what was occurring wasn't the case. The majority of the time, there was some other underlying issue that was the biggest issue. We're going to see the same thing as it relates to other activity that takes place in our community that may be not good for the community or those individuals. And then let's get down to why that's occurring. What is a lack of resources or a ability to obtain the things that are needed or whatever that may be from that model. And then we're going to work in that mindset. So it's not a punitive mindset. Our city always works in the mindset of we want compliance, right? Rather than being punitive. Being punitive is a last resort. But at the same time now, an additional focus on what are the needs of the community? What do we see the priorities? And that's really where it is. It's developing. I mean, I have a more in-depth model of it that's available for you that I can provide you, but it's pretty in-depth on what that looks like at different stages, but nothing is complete at this point. It's developing.
All right. Thank you, Chief Dorico.
Hey, you just did it again. Okay. It's always interesting. I am the Director of Public Safety. That's what I am right now. Okay? I'm just fine with that. I don't need to be anything else.
All right. And, I'm gonna let my other commissioner ask questions, but I do have just 3 questions for you, Captain Weber. My first one would be, what percentage of Lancaster of sheriff's deputies coming out of the Lancaster station have body cameras?
Oh, well, all the patrol deputies assigned to Lancaster Station have body cameras, with the exception of if we have a newly assigned deputy who comes in, like we just got a new patrol trainee assigned to us this month. He's going to patrol school right now. So as soon as we get him to training, he'll get his body camera. But we got everybody, for the most part, through in October of the deputies assigned to Lancaster Station. We have deputies who work in Antelope Valley, either a Parks Bureau, OSS, COPS Bureau, Community Partnership Bureau. They are not wearing body cameras yet. All the patrols in the works, and the training is ongoing. But the actual patrol deputies assigned to Lancaster Station are all have body cameras now.
Thank you. Is there still a staffing shortage at the Lancaster Station?
No, we're pretty good now. There was a severe staffing shortage, as I'm sure Mr. Dorico could tell you, going back for years and years prior, long before I got here. In the last probably year and a half, 2 years, the department's made a concerted effort to make us whole. We're very low on vacancies now. You're always going to have a certain amount. Deputies promote, they transfer, they become detectives, they go to other units. But it's a very, very low level of vacancies at this point.
What are your vacancies right now?
I think we're 2 sergeants. We have all of our lieutenants. Deputy-wise, I think we might be around the 5 or 6 range. That changes occasionally with transfers and that kind of thing. But at the height of our vacancies, it was more like 30 deputies. Was about our height. So, and the way our staffing works is you have people who are on the direct contract for the city. You have deputies who are on the direct contract for the unincorporated areas. And then you have what we call an unallocated set of bodies. And those unallocated items are what fill in the vacancies. So we're at a level now where our unallocated items actually cover that. So we're in pretty good shape at this point.
Thank you. And last question before I pass it off. Can you give us a brief summary of AB 1421?
Well, AB 1421, actually it's SB 1420. I think you're confusing SB 1421 and AB 740. But SB 1421 went into law, I want to say January of last year, 2020. And what it does is prior to SB 1421, personnel files for law enforcement in the state of California were all private. And nothing was released unless you had some type of court order doing so. With SB 1421, it allows public access to certain personnel files, deputy-involved shootings, serious uses of force, what we would call a Category 3 uses of force, founded allegations of sexual misconduct, and that covers a wide variety of things where not just actual, some type of completed sexual misconduct, but for instance, if there's an allegation that someone was pressuring a citizen for some kind of inappropriate sexual contact, even if it wasn't completed, that would fall into that category. But it has to be a founded allegation, and then founded allegations of dishonesty on reports, testimony, that kind of thing. If you have one of those categories, fall into one of those categories, then the personnel files can be accessed by the public. And you can either do it by a PRA request, a public records access request. And if you go to our website, the department's website, lasd.org, on the face page, there's a link called the transparency link. You click on that, and it actually goes to a 1421 link where you can click on that link, and it will give you the email address, and you can ask what you're looking for if you're looking for something in particular. And also, there's all kinds of information already up there. That would be SB 1421 info. There's shooting information on there, complaint information on there, forest information on there. There's a lot of information on those links. If you go in there and look around and look at them, there's a good chance what you're looking for might already be on there. But if not, you can do a public records access request through that link, and it will bring up the actual email address that goes to our discovery unit that deals with those requests.
Thank you, Captain. So I'm going to pass it on to our Vice Chair Charter. Did you have anything that you wanted to ask our captain or our public safety director?
Sure.
All right.
I do not have any questions at this time.
Does any other commissioner have anything they would like to ask or bring to our Commissioner Hone?
I don't have a question. I just have a statement.
All right. Commissioner Hone, I saw her wave her hand first, so I'm going to go ahead and let her go.
Just a question, I think, for Mr. Dorico, and your hybrid model. Is the city open to partnering with existing nonprofits and service organizations that exist within the city? And two, I guess, if the answer to that is yes, right? I guess the second part depends on that. Do you foresee additional funding to help both the existing nonprofits and the service providers in the area?
Yeah, that's a great question, and your timing's perfect. As I mentioned, the county's looking into a joint project with the Alternatives to Incarceration program that will be most importantly a part of any advocacy or nonprofit that exists within the community. So part of our relationship in that discussion that I had with them recently is related to fostering those relationships locally and vetting them as well. And then, of course, there is service dollars that comes along with that for participation. And it looks from the outset, they're actually heading it up with a retired judge, who a very experienced judge. And then they're in that development program is truly for diversion and for service providers. So I think it's a unique opportunity because part of the discussion is typically what happens with the county is they'll use a nonprofit down from the Los Angeles basin who then will reach out to a nonprofit locally. You know, those dollars don't fully come here to the community that has the community impact it would have if those dollars came directly. This is different than that. This is a direct relationship into our local community And again, with vetting those providers locally, I think there's great opportunity for those folks out there that want to be involved with the betterment of our community. It's a great opportunity, and there is significant dollars behind it.
Could you tell me more about your vetting process, or is it still in the works?
That is going to be their vetting process along with their preliminary vetting, and then a discussion locally. So I will tell you right now, there's no one I can think of at the top of my head. It's like we're absolutely not going to go out there and have deal with. But what I can say is going through that process, and then of course the county as well as the city, anytime we align ourselves with any group, there is a vetting process associated with that, because you're talking about public funds. Absolutely. So there's a requirement for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Deloche?
I just want to say thank you guys again for being here. And I'm excited to see the progress that we're making toward being a better city of Lancaster. And just to, as we look through this lens of building these community processes and building a different department, is to continue to look at it through a lens of harmony. When we think of the word compliance, again, there can be a lot of disarray and things going on, and we can hire more police officers and departments to squelch it and to get people compliant. But, again, when we're saying that we can build this plane as we fly it together, let's look at how can we create harmony, not just people doing what they're supposed to, because there's going to be a consequence.
And I agree. And that goes back to what I said is how folks in the community want their community policed. So I believe that's an integral part of developing this process. And I think that's the purpose of this commission as well. Okay. And again, why I'm speaking to you, because I need your input. You're a voice for those individuals in the community that you represent. And of course, it's impossible for me to reach out to everyone. We're a community of 165,000 people. So I think for me it's a huge benefit for me to have a relationship with you as well as the other commissions as well, and who they represent. And as we roll this out, and the thing, I think the beauty for me, I will say this as being at the city now 11 and a half years, I'm fortunate to have a mayor and city council who are supportive of looking at things from different views and developing programs and trying, not being afraid. Step out on that ledge and take a chance, and we'll see where it lands. And you're also at the same time not going to suffer some giant consequence if it doesn't work. Okay, we'll try something else. And I think that's been a great experience for me in my time here. And I'm looking forward to speaking to every one of you individually, and as well as those community outreach meetings and town halls and things that I think are going to be very important moving forward here. And again, the harmony aspect, that's what I like. I want positive input with solutions, not just pointing out an issue. I think we all have a general grasp on what some of the issues may be, but what are the solutions, and having a different approach.
And another part of it is that the city as a whole, even through the programs that I work with, has a restorative mindset. So the term compliance was used, but I think the approach is more restorative. How do we restore everyone through the process of public safety, through the process of diversionary programs? So I think the term is that we're looking at is restorative.
That's a good word. Anything else, Commissioner Deloche? All right, thank you. Commissioner Pope?
Okay, so yes, I just wanted to say thank you so much for meeting with us. And I definitely do agree that we need to find consensus in how exactly we are going to show love through our city through making sure that it is safer. As such, I do have a few questions for Director Dorigo and to Captain Weber. The first one being, so we just talked about looking at things through a restorative lens. And so as such, what kind of restorative justice ideas or policies could you see being implemented in the new hybrid model?
Well, I can answer that first part before Todd reaches in, but we already threw like our community youth court and if you've talked to anyone that's participated, or as Nigel has run the teen court, that's a restorative justice mindset. So, where kids, and I don't know how well everyone would understand how that works, but the mindset is divert that case away, from the criminal justice system. And the student or participants are all students from all our different schools. And the defendant in those cases would be someone who's judged by their peers. And it's quite interesting to see the accountability and then to see that individual who was once a defendant become a juror down the road. Okay, so that whole mentality of it. I think we do a lot of things already as it relates to some of our low-level issues with mediation. Mediation's always a focus, especially if you have some neighborhood dispute that's ongoing with the sheriff's department response. And a lot of that can be done just by getting people in the room and having a discussion. Then we've looked at different restorative models over the 40 years of getting victims and the offender in a room to talk about how it impacted each other, how that impacted the victim, what were the circumstances that occurred there. Those are all things to look at in a format that's appropriate based on the type of offense that may be involved, right? But I think the biggest part is that we raise that standard of quality living in our communities by working collectively together. We have folks take ownership of their communities, and it almost becomes like a self-policing issue, right? As the people learn to talk to each other. Because I can tell you one thing we deal with all the time. It's really ridiculous things, like a barking dog issue. And it's like the first thing you do is you call law enforcement, or a loud music issue or things like that. That's probably not an appropriate way to manage that. Sometimes, go talk to your neighbor. I think a lot of times what's interesting in this mediation process that we had, where people were really a lot of angst and anger and things were occurring on the front side. And as they talked in a room together with the supervision of mediation, how they were able to come to a consensus and resolve their issue. And then we never saw them again. We never had another response from law enforcement. There was another call in the public safety office. So it's incredible what people, like we talked about the students earlier, are able to accomplish on their own. So it's interesting on the mediation side to observe that behavior. Well, then make that more global as it relates to other issues, right? And things that we look at as how do we weigh that against really what is the victimization in the community on a certain incident and what's value is placed on that. And of course, that's part of talking to victims to themselves. Okay, and then where are they at in a particular situation? And then there's accountability for each side. But the mindset is to make sure that what direction we use, especially on some minor or quality of life offense, doesn't have a permanent impact. That's an issue. The also same time of being mindful that we have a responsibility to victims to make them whole, okay, in the community as well, based on that resource. So there's a balance there, right? And it's going to be different for each different given situation or circumstances or how egregious someone may feel about it. But that's part of those conversations that we need to have in that process. So now moving forward on some of these other issues that could move forward to a litigation in court, and mediation has to be a step before we'll take the action moving forward for, like, let's say we're going to cite them. So if we have an issue in a community over noise, barking, some is minor issue, neighborhood dispute, mediation's required before anything moves forward, so that they participate. If they're unwilling to participate, and especially if you're the person complaining, then the process stops right there, and then you can seek remedy on your own civilly. Okay, so we encourage people to participate in those conversations. And I think there's value in that, because it was amazing the resolution that you see occur, and it stays together, and people live next to each other. Okay, you got to talk to your neighbor. There's an issue. Now, if there's some underlying issue that there's a fear factor there, and if it's warranted, then that's a different situation. You address that appropriately, because we don't want to put people out there too and make another victim out of something that shouldn't have occurred. But that's kind of the mentality of it all, and that's a really kind of low-level example. But I think as you apply that through, it's like, what kind of community are we trying to gain by putting the effort and resources to it that we want in the end? And then again, better utilizes our resources as a cost for what the sheriff's department costs are, right? And what do we really see their priorities as being in servicing our community, what our expectation as a community is. Because again, remember, we pay for those services. We're actually the customer in this situation, right? So what do we see as a community that we want those sheriff's deputies focusing on versus what we as a community will manage on a community level?
I 100% agree. And just a follow-up question to that, there are just like two more that I would just like to get through. But I was also wondering if you could just briefly summarize for me the 1090 ordinance and the administrative site program.
Yeah, I honestly, right now, based on what's occurring, probably not going to touch that right now. Okay. I mean, and we have that conversation individually, right? Exactly what that program is. But I will tell you, everything I've talked about was the intent of that program. That's a true diversion program in its truest form.
Okay. And then lastly, this one is more under the jurisdiction of Captain Weber. So you were talking about a little bit earlier that for some of the entities and some of the community partners that you use with the Sheriff's Department are in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department, if I understood you correctly, that the members that are patrolling the city of Lancaster, they do have body cameras. Mm-hmm. That's 100% pretty much squared away. I was just asking or inquiring about the community partners, and you were talking about that there were partnerships and trainings for those partnerships for the body cameras. And I was just wondering if there was a timeline for when those trainings would be completed or how the community could see that sort of trend of progress.
Well, the community partners I was really talking about were other departments or other divisions within the Sheriff's Department, Parks Bureau, Community Partnerships Bureau, Countywide Services Bureau. Those are all bureaus within the Sheriff's Department. They just patrol different areas. Lancaster Station, we patrol the incorporated city of Lancaster through the contract policing, and then we patrol the unincorporated portions of LA County that are within our area. Whereas Community Partnerships Bureau, they have different teams that work different operations. They do a lot of quality of life type stuff. They have a blood sport team that works dog fighting and cockfighting, and they work a lot of different specialized type things. And then you have Countywide Services Bureau. They police the county libraries, county hospital, county buildings. So they're all Sheriff's Department employees. Are all deputies. They're just different divisions. So like I said, for patrol, Lancaster Station, all of our patrol deputies have them body cams. As trainees come in who are newly assigned to patrol, coming to Lancaster Station, they're assigned to Lancaster. They'll be trained as training opens up. The other divisions, I believe it's a 2-year window they're looking at to get all of patrol trained. Talking all patrol stations within LA County Sheriff's Department. I believe it's a 2-year window is what they're shooting for, and that's all will be dependent upon how budgets go and how COVID could affect budgets, how Measure J will affect budgets. That's a little bit above my pay grade and my level, but I believe it was a 2-year window they were looking for to get all of patrol trained. I know West Hollywood Station is another North Patrol Division station that has them. And then as our deputies believe here, if a deputy, that camera is assigned to the deputy. So as a deputy transfers from Lancaster Station, say they transfer to another station, that camera goes with them. So all of our patrol areas will be built upon that way also. People transfer, they move different ways. But we were in the first, Lancaster Station was in the first group of 5 stations to get the body cam. And they started assigning them to us in October. We got the station, everyone is currently assigned to the station through in October, minus a few people who are out long-term injury or family leave or whatever. And as they come back, they'll be trained. But what's kind of neat, people don't realize what the body camera program, everyone just thinks about the camera itself and capturing the data or our interactions. But there's a lot of really neat stuff that benefits the community on top of just that. Like every one of our cameras is paired with a smartphone that has different apps in it that link with the phone. And for instance, if we go to a call, we can do interviews on that phone, recorded interviews on the phone. We could do video interviews using that phone. We could take pictures using that phone. And all that data gets uplinked into a digital evidence system. So instead of our deputies having to come back with the camera, download it into a shared file, giving it to detectives, that all gets automatically uploaded into this digital evidence management system. It's cloud-based. It gets sent up to that, so it's all secure. And then our detectives can share that information with the district attorney's office. Instead of doing everything manually or putting everything on a disc or on paper, they can share all that with district attorneys who are trained with the system. And another neat thing is, I don't know if you've ever been the victim of a crime or been a witness of a crime, or you have some kind of digital evidence, you have video at your house. It seems like whenever we're trying to get the video or the cameras, very often the person who we're dealing with or talking to doesn't know how that system works. With that phone, we can send the victim or the witness a link, and then they can use that link to, when their family member, their supervisor, their manager, whoever knows how to use that system comes in, they can use that link and it gets uploaded to that digital evidence system automatically. So it'll make things a lot easier for the public in that way also. And it's kind of new for us. We've had it about 3 months now, and our deputies are learning new stuff with it all the time, and the training continues. But it's going to be very, very advantageous in a lot of ways, other than just the interactions that the cameras capture.
Thank you so much for that. That was very informative. And I'm glad to know that there, like you said, are other benefits aside from just seeing those interactions. It's nice to know that there's a streamlined approach with that. So thank you for answering my question.
Absolutely. I think for the whole criminal justice system, between us, our detectives, victims, the DA, it's going to make things a lot more streamlined, like you said, a lot easier, a lot more convenient, and a lot more secure. It's uploaded into that data system. When the deputies come back and they plug their camera into the charging dock at the end of shift, all that's automatically uploaded, and it's very secure. And the cameras themselves are very, very robust and durable. So it should be all captured. Like I said, it's automatically gets into that digital evidence management system, and it's very secure that way.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Pope. And I was able, I was lucky enough to take a look at where they are at the stage where they have the body cameras and everything, and it is secure. My last thing before we open this up for public comment on all of our presentations, can we, Director DeRico, can we make the public safety contract between us, our city, and the Sheriff's Department available to the Commission?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Can we now will be the appropriate time to open up public comment for our presentations today?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on any of the presentations that have just been presented, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please press *9 at this time. Okay, we have Dave Bowman.
Well, okay, finally, thank you. First, Commissioner Cannon, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to address our committee, and thank you for your interest in our city. It's my opinion that your efforts are an inspiration to young people, as it empowers them to act for all our futures. Well done, sir. I have 2 questions for Director DeRico. I've written them down, so I'll be real brief. And anyways, let me get started. First, I'd like to thank you, sir, for your efforts with both the Housing Authority and the LASD in reducing the crime rate in 2009, as well as your skill in networking those authorities to reach your goal of a safer community. In recent days, it's Code Chapter 9.48.010, Ordinance number 1001 has allowed the city to avoid sending misdemeanor offenders to prison. And I was hoping you could tell us what that process was, how long it took, your part in developing this appreciated ordinance, as well as who assisted you. Now, second, after the second accident law in 7 years regarding the LASD and the financial exposure the Lancaster taxpayers again face, as well as the failure of the LASD to supervise their CAC to factually inform the people of Lancaster about the progress of the Lancaster LASD to comply with the DOJ mandated settlement agreement of 2015 in an effort to gain public support for the proposed Lancaster PD. Would you support a Prop 1187 type community effort to ensure transparency, effectiveness, and the most important element of law enforcement, trust in our PD? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Bowman. Director, would you like to respond?
On the first issue, I will not comment because of the pending litigation that is occurring right at this moment. So I have no comment. On the second issue, that would be a determination that's made by our city council and mayor based on their positions. And then again, I would follow whatever direction that they dictate to us as city staff.
Thank you. Any other callers?
There are no additional callers at this time.
Deputy Mayor Varden has joined us. Deputy Mayor Varden, do you have a question for the commission?
Actually, I did have a question. It was more for Captain Weber and Director Dorico. I'm curious if there's any additional de-escalation techniques or trainings that are being conducted for either public safety or the Lancaster Sheriff's Department, things like crisis prevention, intervention training, or mental health first aid, anything like that?
Yeah, am I off mute? Yeah, I'm off mute. We have a lot of de-escalation training in the Sheriff's Department. A lot of our continuing professional training, CPT training, has a de-escalation component to it. And then locally, we have the crisis intervention training, and they've just changed the acronym to something else. But it's a multi-day course dealing with a lot of mental health component to it, de-escalation type stuff. And then our MET team, our mental health evaluation team, I know you probably heard of, they came up with a program that we've been bringing out here. It's fairly new. It's also de-escalation training, and it deals specifically with veterans and the problems that veterans face with PSTD and that type of stuff. And it really focused towards that. And we have so many veterans out in this community. I've made it a point to have them come out and do some training with us. And kind of the idea behind that training is they come out, they go to a briefing, they talk about the training and briefing and to the whole shift and give a little overview and some training. And then we call them in one or two at a time, and they actually have a simulator where deputies come in and they're presented with a video scenario, and the deputies actually have to interact and try to de-escalate and deal with the avatar or virtual whatever, and the operator can actually change up the scenario depending on how the deputy acts, and they've gone as far as the deputy trying to ruse the avatar about how he's a veteran also, and the operator will actually change up the scenario and have the deputy get caught in the lie, so to speak, or the ruse. It was pretty interesting stuff, and the deputies really liked it. And we just got it's just coming in now. The state gave our department a number of shoot, don't shoot simulators, if you will. I forget the actual name of what they're calling the system, but it's like a shoot, don't shoot type thing. And typically we have to go down to a different training area to have some type of system like that. They give it to our department, and our training bureau actually gave it to Lancaster Station. And we're actually going to have it here. And it was just delivered Post just delivered it yesterday. Peace Officer Standard and Training, and that will be another simulator type thing. It's actually going to be VR, the virtual reality goggles, and it's going to be kind of the same type thing. You're going to be presented with different scenarios, and you'll be able to change up the scenario and affect the avatars depending on how the deputies interact and try to de-escalate. So de-escalation is a huge thing for us, and anything with the mental health component is critical, because I know in your role you realize how many people we have here with mental health issues. This station in 2019, I think we had about 5150 holes that came out of the station. That's more than a lot of patrol divisions have, where you have 5 patrol stations in a division. So we have a huge amount of folks out here who have a mental health component to them, or mental health history to them. So any kind of training and de-escalation type stuff we can get is great. And we try to think of it not just from that training, but my staff and I, we try to think a little more strategically. How do we keep people here longer? Because clearly, the more experience you have and the more training you have, the better outcome you have. So how do we keep people here longer, deputies here longer, more kind of isolated? Luckily, a lot of folks out here live out here. A lot of our deputies live here. So we keep them, they have a vested interest in the community. They live out here, so we're able to keep them. And then we're looking at ways to, like I said, how do we keep retention longer, keep people here longer? It's a busy place, and one of the problem, or two of the big problems we have is either one, people just they get burnt out. It's busy and they're looking for something different, and they go somewhere else. And another problem we deal with is, I shouldn't say it's a problem, it's a unintended consequence, is with all the experience that our deputies and detectives have, we have a lot of folks who promote out of the station, or either the sergeant, lieutenant, they promote out, or they go to other specialized units because they have so much experience. They get picked up at other specialized units. So we're constantly dealing with a lot of influx of new deputies. So we think, how can we keep them longer? How can we do that retention? And we got a lot of projects going on here to keep folks, and it's working out for us. And so we're getting a lot more folks through different crisis intervention training, de-escalation training, and the department as a whole recognizes how important that is. So they're constantly looking for new ways to fold de-escalation tactics or de-escalation training into training that we already have that's mandated through post, like our CPT training. If that answers your question.
It does. And to your point, the high volume of mental health calls that you guys get, I know recent cuts affected the MET teams. Are we going to be able to get any more available in this area that do go out with the DMH clinicians, or is that anything that might be happening?
I know MET is they're constantly working on funding and that type of stuff. To be honest, with Measure J, with being so new, that just got voted and passed through November, I would be guessing. I don't know what the long-term ramifications of that will be. I know that MET, they just brought us in on a pilot program here. They were working on it in East Patrol Division all last year for a diversion type program for people who have mental health issues, to where they come in if they're arrested for a non-violent, non-serious crime, where they can be interviewed and they can opt into a program that would divert them basically from the court system into some type of treatment. And it would be kind of a twofold type thing. They would go to that treatment. Our detectives would still investigate the criminal case so that it could be presented later on if need be. And then as long as the individual completes their program and everything, then that charge or that case would go away. And Mr. Dorico was talking about the Alternatives to Incarceration program. That also has a mental health component. That focuses on nonviolent, non-serious crimes with three basic components to it. Either you have a mental health component, a substance abuse component, what was the third? Homeless component to it. And if you fit in one of those three categories, and it's a non-violent, non-serious, it's the same type program where if the person is willing to participate in the program, they would be, the service provider would find them housing through the community partners and put them in a program. As long as you complete it, then that case would go away. And if you don't, then it would go to the DA. And that's kind of an interesting program because you have the district attorney involved, you've got that retired judge involved, you've got us involved, you've got the city involved, you've got service providers involved. And that came out of when they were going to tear down CJ, Men's Central Jail. There was money, all kinds of money approved to tear down Men's Central Jail and rebuild it as, I forget what the acronym for the facility was going to be, but it was going to be a custody facility with a treatment aspect for mental health treatment and substance abuse treatment. And then last spring, the board of supervisors kind of shifted gears on it and got rid of that program and rediverted that money to that ATI, Alternatives to Incarceration. So this should be a well-funded program. Everyone's involved. All the big stakeholders are involved. It sounds like it's going to be a good program. We just started doing our. We were just actually started having our phone calls and our focus groups on it within the last few weeks. But that also has a mental health component. So the MET team and the mental and that program, they're working together to make sure that the two diversion programs will complement each other as opposed to conflicting or confusing. And then we also have a juvenile diversion program, which basically works the same type way. That started last spring also. We haven't had as much success with that as we hoped, mainly because of COVID. We're just not having as much contact with juveniles as we typically have. With all the schools being closed and all the places being closed, we don't have nearly as much contact with juveniles. But there's a lot of diversion and alternatives to incarceration programs going, and Lancaster Station is involved in all three of those right now. So I think with everything opening up, it's going to be a pretty exciting year for that. Because, we see that rotation. You see the same folks coming through the gates over and over again. And how do you stop that? And that's what the Alternatives to Incarceration is all about, is breaking that cycle, getting the people the treatment they need, whatever it might be, figuring out what the component is, and going for that restorative justice model. And how do you make the person whole? And how do you try to end that cycle instead of just seeing it over and over and over again?
I think the thing is, it's going to create opportunities for more expansion of services.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be real dollars put to those opportunities. So I think as all these things come together, and especially with the work you're doing and everyone in their capacity out there and providing those services, is going to be outlets for providing those services. The other thing I think is really great about the program is that it's a locally based program. So we'll have a mindset on a local tie, and that's using groups and representatives from the local community. And I think that's a big difference from where it's typically gone on a program that's usually administered by the countywide.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you again to all of our commissioners and to Captain Weber and our Public Safety Director. We're going to move on with this agenda. We have finally gotten to the consent calendar. So first and foremost, City Clerk, can you please make your announcements to see if we have any speakers for the consent calendar?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item CC1, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please press *9 at this time. There are no speakers.
Thank you. Is there a motion in a second to approve the consent calendar, the minutes from the last meeting?
I motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It is moved by Commissioner Holmes, seconded by Vice Chair Carter. Can you call the roll, please?
Commission members Deloche.
Aye.
Hone.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Vice Chair Carter.
Aye.
Chairman Cannon.
Aye, it passes unanimously. All right, so now we are on to our new business, item number 1. Can I have the slide up, please? It's a quick presentation, I promise y'all. All right, wait for this to load. Okay, so yeah, in previous meetings, we talked about the need for a type of task force to work with this commission on achieving our goals. I want to thank everyone for providing input to staff. And based on that input, here is the model for the Social Equity Commission Subcommittee for Community Engagement. Next slide, please. So what is the overall goal? By creating this subcommittee, the commission will be able to move ideas forward from concept to fruition. Items included on this subcommittee's work plan will include helping to make sure that the greater community is more aware of existing outreach initiatives, such as community surveys, town halls, and other areas of public interest. And for a more literal example, like what we just heard from our presenters, some of the things that the district talks about, some school district students may not know. Some of the things that public safety talked about, some folks may not know. So this is a subcommittee that can help us do that. So, but they will also be advising us on new approaches to reach the overall goals set by this commission. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so the structure. So here's the structure that personally I think should be the model for any future subcommittees that we might have. But once we have voted to create the subcommittee, the chair will nominate 2 other commissioners, and they will be appointed by a majority vote of this commission. Each of the 7 of us will choose one person that meets the criteria to serve on the subcommittee. Now, you don't have to name that person in this meeting, obviously, but I do want to say that I want to place a deadline to submit this name to staff. And I want the deadline to be by next Friday, the 26th. So that way we can get this subcommittee up and running by early March. I want to make it also clear that this subcommittee will be put to work, just like this commission. There will be bi-weekly meetings. So there is a time commitment. So keep this in mind when selecting members. And this leads me to my criteria. Can I have the next slide, please? So the potential subcommittee members could be faith leaders, community organizers, educators, local board members, mental health professionals, community members with experience working with youth and young adults, obviously, and anyone who has an interest in facilitating transparency between the Social Equity Commission and the community at large. So yeah, these are just suggestions, but you get the idea. All right, so can I have the last slide, please? And this is now where we will get into our discussion about this model for our subcommittee on community engagement. So I will start it off with our vice chair, Carter.
I really don't have questions or comments right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Again, we've been working on this for a while now, so the
model is really clear to me. And
any other commissioners that would like to add anything or give any input? Going once, going twice. I really wish I had a gavel. Somebody promised me a gavel with this position, but I digress. But yeah, so I would ask, is there a motion and a second for creating a subcommittee on community engagement based on this model and using the structure using this structure as a model for future subcommittees?
I will make a motion.
So moved. Could I have a second, Ms.?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. So it is moved by Vice Chair Carter and it is seconded by Commissioner Holm. Assistant City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Okay, we are going to open it up to public comment. At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item NB1, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please press *9 at this time. Mr. Dave Bowman.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, not to put you on the spot, but would you please name the Hispanic representatives that are supposed to go ahead and be on this commission?
Thank you, Mr. Bowman, for that comment. I will say that I do not believe that the Hispanic community is a monolith, but I do believe that our Commissioner Hone does have Hispanic heritage. But I will say that the purpose of this subcommittee is to understand that no community is a monolith, and that no one on this commission, we don't know everything about every community. None of us on this commission believe that we have all the answers to so many of the nuanced issues that go into making sure that the city has equity, hence us opening up for this subcommittee and the potential for future subcommittees. So yes, thank you for your comment.
We have no additional comments at this time. We do have a first and we do have a second, so I'm going to take the roll call vote. Commission members Deloche?
Aye.
Hone?
Aye.
Pope?
Aye.
Vice Chair Carter?
Aye.
Chairman Cannon?
Aye. It passes unanimously. All right, so now we are on to public business from the floor, non-agendized items. City Clerk, can you please make your announcement, please?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on non-agendized items, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please press star 9 at this time. Mr. Bowman? Dave Bowman?
Again, thank you. My comment has to do with the Citizens Advisory Committee in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department as they supervise the advisory committee. On the 25th, there's going to go ahead and be a meeting where we're going to go ahead and be reviewing report number 11. I don't know if the captain wants to go ahead and respond to this, but I've noted that the time for the meeting has gone ahead and been shortened to 1 hour, and there's no more spontaneous questioning that'll go ahead and take place, as we've been directed at all questions are to go ahead and be submitted in writing prior to the meeting. I'm not certain that is a good way to go ahead and proceed with the community, because everybody sits there and they listen, but they don't get a chance to go ahead and respond. If I could get you to respond to that, Captain, I would appreciate that a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any other public item from the floor?
We have no additional speakers at this time.
Okay, so we're going to move on to commissioner comments. I will start with Commissioner Deloche, because you're just the first. You're right next to my window on here, so.
No problem. Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any comments. I just want to say thank you guys for being in the meeting. And again, I'm excited to see where we're going with this commission, and I'm excited to see where this subcommittee goes, because as you stated, we do need to get representation from all aspects of our community, and this is how we can do it. So,
any comments, Commissioner Pope? Thank you, by the way, Commissioner Deloche. Anything, Mr. Commissioner Pope?
I actually have none. I do just want to say, though, that the presentations that I saw today, thoroughly impressed with. I really loved seeing the data and the statistics that went into a lot of the governing practices that we have, not only with the Sheriff's Department, but with the school district as well. So I definitely just want to thank the presenters for being here. But yeah, I have no further questions or comments at this time.
Commissioner Hall? Thank you, Commissioner Pope. Commissioner Hall?
No, I'm just excited to move forward. That's all. I'm just excited.
Ditto. Vice Chair Carter?
yes, I echo what everyone else has said. I'm looking forward to, moving from talking about it to really making it happen. So.
And I will piggyback right on that too. Thank you, Vice Chair Carter. I will piggyback right on that too. Let's make it happen with this subcommittee we have just established. I believe that we're going to start moving in a pace that gets us to getting what we've already said we wanted to get done. And I really want to thank again our presenters, Captain Weber from the Public Safety Department to the school district. Everything that and this was not by my design. Let me just make this clear from the get-go. But it just so happens that everything that was presented today, I have personally seen in action and has personally affected my life or members of my family or members of this community's lives already. So these are things that we heard about. Yes, we heard about things and how things work in theory, but very rarely do we get to see that things that work in theory also work in practice. And so it is my pleasure. It is my great honor to have that kind of facilitated conversation with this commission. It's what the one of our goals are. It's what the overall goal of our subcommittees will be. We not only want to come in and just shake things up. We want to make sure that things that are already here, folks know about. So again, I want to thank you guys all for presenting, and I want to thank you guys all for coming. At this time, I will adjourn this meeting, and the next regular meeting of the Social Equity Commission will be Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 5:00 p.m. God bless everybody, and please stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, everybody.